As part of our new Meet Your Joe Biden administration series, I wanted to introduce you to someone called Jalina Porter, now a top spokesman at the State Department. In that role, Jalina Porter is responsible for communicating American foreign policy to the rest of the world. Now, you may not know much about her job history, but trust us, that's a pretty stunning promotion for her. Before she joined the Biden administration, Jalina Porter was best known as a part-time cheerleader for the Oakland Raiders and the Washington Wizards. She also moonlit for a time as a staffer on Capitol Hill and took the occasional gig as a consultant pushing various strains of identity politics. Of course, those aren't her real qualifications. Jalina Porter's real credential, like so many in the Biden administration, is that she despises millions of Americans and says so. These are the very people she now represents overseas. Here's what Jalina Porter wrote on Facebook in September of 2016, and we're quoting. "The largest threat to U.S. national security are U.S. cops. Not ISIS, not Russian hackers, not anyone or anything else. If y'all don't wake up and rise up to this truth, the genocide against blacks in America will continue until we are near extinct." Those comments, by the way, first reported by the Washington Free Beacon. Now, it's worth pausing for a moment to consider the implications here because they matter. She's speaking for the United States State Department, for our government, for you. In the year 2016, when she wrote that on Facebook, a total of 19 unarmed African Americans have been shot and killed by police. Twice as many people died by lightning strike in the United States that year. In the last 2 years, 2019 and 2020, the number of police shootings was even lower than that, lower than 19. But according to a new State Department spokeswoman who now represents the United States government and you, that's genocide. Yeah, that's genocide. Not what's happening to Christians in the Middle East, not what's happening to Uyghurs in China, what's happening at the hands of American police officers. Does the Biden administration agree with its own spokesperson on that? Does it even care? Will anyone even respond? The answer, of course, is no, no chance. We know that because last month we told you about Kristen Clarke. She's Joe Biden's nominee to head the Civil Rights Division at the Justice Department. Just to be clear, heading the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department is not like representing the state of Georgia in the 14th Congressional District. It's a job with actual power where you can send people to prison like that, where you have a lot of armed people working for you. Kristen Clarke is getting that job, and Kristen Clarke once wrote that African Americans were genetically superior to other races. Now, we've said this, we've read the quotes for you, which are even worse than we're characterizing them, more shocking. We haven't heard a word from the White House about Kristen Clarke. The Justice Department will not tell us whether her theories of black supremacy have any place in the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, the part responsible for enforcing equal rights among all Americans. The truth is, none of this bothers the party in charge. They don't mind it if you hate America, if you're a bigot, even if you call for violence, as long as they're benefiting from it. And if you don't believe it, recall this clip of Maxine Waters, one of the top Democrats in Congress, back in 2018. So because there are still geniuses on the internet, this is such a great story, an anonymous user on Twitter remembered that moment and decided to conduct a social science experiment. He took Maxine Waters' own words, but he swapped out the phrase Trump cabinet officials for, quote, Democrats in New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration. Here's what he wrote, quote, "If you see anyone from the Cuomo administration in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, get out and you create a crowd. You push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere." So how'd that go over? Once it wasn't Maxine Waters who was saying it. Well, of course, Democrats in New York are apoplectic. "This is appalling and dangerous," barked a Democratic New York State Assemblyman called Carl Heastie. "Encouraging violence must never be tolerated. Shame on whoever is behind this kind of garbage." It's unbelievable. New York State Senator Diane Savino said this is beyond outrageous. And within a few hours, virtually every Democrat in the state of New York had condemned this anonymous tweet. But the best response came from a congressman called Richie Torres, who sits with Maxine Waters on the Financial Services Committee in the House. He said this, quote, "As a congressman who lived through the insurrection against the U.S. Congress, I am appalled by the tweet below, which is an invitation to violence against public officials. We must all denounce in no uncertain terms any attempt at inciting violence," end quote, "except attempts committed by Maxine Waters, the dangerous insurrection." As I sit next to her in the committee, but who I will ignore when she says things that are inconvenient. So according to Maxine Waters' own logic, heavy air quotes around that term, Maxine Waters herself is a dangerous insurrectionist white supremacist. Just want to set the record straight on this.